Tensioning your mast and standing rigging with PTR rigging and spars. In this video, we will demonstrate how to properly dock tension a masthead rig with a single set of inline spreaders, forward and aft lower shrouds. This rigging setup can be found on a variety of classic cruising and racing sailboats, but the tips and tricks featured in this video can be used on a variety of different rig configurations. This sailboat was recently overhauled with new standing rigging, and in this video we will demonstrate how to dock tension the mast. The final step of tuning the mast needs to be completed while under sail. Slacken all turnbuckles so that the mast can be centered both laterally and longitudinally. Loosen all turnbuckles so that they are hand and finger tight. This allows the mast to be supported with minimal pull from unevenly tightened stays. To center the masthead laterally, we need to make sure the cap shrouds are even lengths on both sides. This is achieved by measuring the length of the turnbuckle from the top of the clevis pin to the tip of the swaged stud. Loosen up the lower shrouds if any tension has been introduced when moving the mast port to starboard. Since this rigging was fabricated at our shop here in Port Townsend, we know the accuracy of the swage and length of shrouds to be equal on both sides. It should be noted though that in some instances, chain plate elevation and pin location can differ from port to starboard. It is best to measure and check for differences to maintain a centered masthead. If there is any doubt in the accuracy of your shroud length and mast position, please do not hesitate to contact us for consultation. Once the cap shrouds are even, the goal is to keep the mast centered while adding tension to the rig. Start by finger tightening the forward lowers, making sure they are evenly tensioned but not pulling on the mast in any uneven direction. If more than 2 fingers are required when turning the turnbuckle, back off to the closest half turn. This is a very delicate process, feeling the tension differences between the port and starboard shrouds. Once the lower forward shrouds are at the same tension, they will always be treated the same, inducing the same amount of turns on each of the turnbuckles. A turn is considered a 180-degree screw adjustment with the turnbuckle. Now that the lower forward shrouds are equal with each other, induce tension with about 4 turns to help stabilize the center of the mast. Repeat the same process with the aft lower shrouds, finding equal tension between port and starboard. If more than 2 fingers are required when turning the turnbuckle, back off to the closest half turn. Once both sides are equal, provide tension with about 3 turns. Since this mast is relatively stiff, the lower aft shrouds will be tensioned to a lesser percentage compared to the forward shrouds. This is to help with pre-bend and rake, which we will discuss shortly when centering the mast longitudinally using the backstay and forestay. So far, we have measured both port and starboard cap shrouds to be even on both sides and tensioned the lower shrouds to about 5% of the braking load. The mast is now standing evenly within the lateral plane. Tension the cap shrouds to 15% of the braking load. At PTR Rigging and Spars, we use a loose gauge to accurately measure the tension on our client's rigs. To measure tension, simply place the gauge on the shroud between the 2 nylon spools and pull the lanyard till the hook is clipped on the cable. Read the needle position on the top scale and reference the cable diameter in the table below to determine percent braking load. Since this boat is equipped with 1/4-inch shrouds, the scale reading of 38 corresponds to 16%. This is an ideal tension for the cap shrouds. If a loose gauge is unavailable, a measuring tape can be used to measure the stretch induced within the wire. Stainless steel wire, no matter the diameter, will stretch 1 mm per 2 meters in length every 5% of braking load. A total of 3 mm of stretch can be measured per 2 meters of measured length for a total of 15% of the braking load. 15% of the braking load is an accurate and safe starting point to achieve a tuned rig prior to setting sail. Determining rake. Rake is the angle from vertical that the masthead sits aft. On a boat such as this, it's common for the mast to have minimal rake, but our goal is to position the masthead roughly 1 degree aft from vertical. Tie a weighted object to a tension halyard. This will serve as a plumb bob and creates a straight line from the masthead down, allowing us to measure how far aft the masthead sits from the base of the mast. Using the plumb bob, we measured 6 inches of rake. Make sure to subtract the length of the sheave at the top. To find rake, or the angle aft, we need to determine the slope using rise over run. On this boat, the rise is 6 inches and the run is 420 inches. 6 divided by 420 equals 0.014. Using the provided chart from Selden, we get a rake of 0.8 degrees. Be aware that weight fore and aft can affect the rake by a half a degree or more. For example, 300 feet of anchor chain on a small boat can reduce the calculated rake. Rake is adjusted using the toggle on the forestay. For more rake, loosen the forestay while tightening the backstay. At this point, there should be minimal tension on both the forestay and backstay. But once desired rake is determined, tension the backstay to 15% of the braking load. When tensioning the backstay, tension is also increased in the forestay and forward lower shrouds. With increasing loads on the forestay from the jib, the masthead will want to move forward. This is prevented with pre-bend. Give the mast a slight positive pre-bend using the interplay between the forward and aft lower shrouds. The goal of pre-bend is to avoid a negative bend, where the masthead is forward of center. Adding tension to the forward lower shrouds to add pre-bend will help negate the masthead from moving forward. For this boat, we tension backstay, cap shrouds, and forward lowers to 15% of the braking load, and the aft lower shrouds were tensioned to 10%. While sailing close-hauled in a moderate breeze, check that the cap shrouds don't begin to slacken until about 20 degrees of heel. At this point, you'll see the lower aft shrouds lose tension, but if there's too much slop, feel free to add one turn to the turnbuckle. If the masthead falls off leeward more than half an inch, tension the cap shrouds and lower forward shrouds accordingly. Tensioning your rig at the dock in this manner is an accurate and safe starting point to have a well-tuned rig. Final adjustments for tuning can be completed under sail, but the majority of our clients have found this to be adequate for their sailboats. At PTR Rigging and Spars, we provide valued services and products to sailors of all kinds. Our expert and comprehensive rigging services will enhance your sailing through improved performance, ease of operation, and safety of your vessel. If you have any questions regarding rigging, rig tuning, or need consultation, please visit us online at porttownsendrigging.com. With more than 25 years experience in the Port Townsend marine trades community, we are dedicated to improved sail handling, enabling and encouraging you to sail more and motor less.